Look at me get a little Tomo. No! Hello, and welcome back to my devlog series for my upcoming Hololive fan game. The style of this video is going to be a bit different than what I wanted to do because I recorded all of my work without speaking as it was a little difficult to do so at the time, so get comfy with Editor Victor this time. I first started out with making a new scene for our hub, calling it Tiny Tower and renaming the main scene to the main tower. The void felt too void, so I made a 16x16 sprite of white pixels to do basic blueprinting with so I could plan out the tiny tower. Eventually, I'll make some more colored blocks to work with, but that'll be a little later in the video. Here, I'm just getting a feel for how the hub should be laid out and making sure all the facilities I'd want in it are in easy to reach spots and also entices the player to explore a little bit. I made a prefab of the player and brought that into the tiny tower scene so I could walk around. I forgot to freeze the rigid body. Alright, now we can play the. Oh, that's a lot of no reference exception errors. Alright, fine. I'll make a dummy game object to make Unity stop yelling at me for an insignificant problem. Blah. And now we can run around the hub level and even clean the floors while doing so. Now I'm going to add someone behind the desk here. You're going to have to talk to them in order to activate the gate or portal, or however I'm getting the player to the main tower. Then I wrote some code to let you go to the person first, and then to the gate, and voila! You're in the main tower. Oh yeah, I worked on the floor detection part of the player, so now if you don't land on a platform, you'll bonk or slide off of it and bounce away depending on how you hit it. So now it feels a lot more like a Jump King-like fall. As mentioned in the previous video, I may not record all of my progress, but this is what I made for a little Atomo! The top row is the idle animation, the middle row is the walking animation, and the last row is the jump sprite. I already brought it into Unity, so now it's time to set it all up. First, I started with an animation controller to house all the animations I'm going to make. There are only 3, it's not going to be that crazy. I linked them all up and added 2 bools, one for walking and one for jumping. I dragged in all of the sprites necessary for each animation, set up the code to trigger the bools when necessary, and now we got a moving Atomo! Yippee! It's really easy to set up a simple menu, so after I got the Atomo animated, I figured I would work on the main menu next to make it feel more like a game in early alpha rather than a test build for a school project. And I guess this is the moment where I solidify the potential name for the game, Holojump. Unless I could come up with something better, this is probably what we're going to be going with. But I added the pixelated logo I made for my previous devlog thumbnail because we love reusing assets in this household. And don't forget, this is a rage game, so maybe it'll be funny to have the start button quit out of the game and the not start button be the real button to get into it. I don't know, I may change my mind later on that, but after writing a short and simple script for the menu manager, we now have working buttons to both quit the game and to load us into the hub. Remember how I said I made more blocks to work with for blocking out levels? Well, that time has come. You'll get a little insight to my future plans for traps and platform types here, as well as my little scuffed color key for what each color will represent when I bring this into Unity. Oh, yeah, I think I'm going to try to make 7 floors, and each floor will represent a song time period. So you'll start in the vocal/acapella floor, and then as humanity progresses, you'll start getting into traditional and classical instruments, and then into more modern and electronic instruments. And finally, the top floor will be pop themed, which tends to be the music genre that Hololive does a lot, so I figured that'd be a fitting final floor, and the fast-paced nature of that genre also helps with making you feel like the finish line approaches, and one wrong slip could take you on a one-way trip back in time, potentially several hours of work. Now that we got some foundations in place, you need a reason to get to the top, to meet your Roshi. So I started work on a Cecilia Immergreen sprite to place at the top of the tower. I didn't like how it turned out, so I'll redo it in the future with a slightly higher resolution, more so to give the idols more room for their designs rather than trying to fit more detail into them, because Cece looks like she's been stuck in a tube for days and still hasn't decompressed her dress. No, go back! But what's better than meeting your Roshi? Getting a medal from them for it, so I quickly made a little medal that you'll earn when you reach the top and chuck that into Unity. Also, while I've been doing a lot of my work, I've been enjoying the medieval theme for Russia from Civ 6. Shh! I'll come back home soon to win a religious victory. Afterwards, I had an idea utilizing scriptable objects, so of course, I went to every Unity developer's friend, Brackies! Wait, CC is streaming. Time to take a quick little break. Hey, why is her head like that? Anyways, after taking a 2-hour-long break from my hard 10 minutes of work, I got back into the Brackies tutorial to learn more on how scriptable objects work, and good news, I barely understand them. And that's good enough for me. So in order to test out the purpose of the scriptable objects I'm making, I need another sprite that's animated. I didn't really expect to work on this so soon, but enter Chatini! Well, a very basic form of Chatini, one that still doesn't have jetpacks. I needed a second animator to experiment with for my scriptable objects, so I know that I can properly switch between 2 separate characters and they would wait. What about Gura? Hold on. Oh, for all that is good and holy, please. Anyways, after having my heart stomped on, I finished the simple 2-frame animation for Chatini, and I put it in and set it up with the scriptable object, which was basically written by a monkey on a typewriter at this point. Essentially, I'm making data containers for each mascot. The mono behavior script I wrote for the player's movement should be fine as a simple script within a prefab, but by making scriptable objects with templates, I can essentially make an infinite amount of mascots and name each object the name I want, what sprite to display it as, the animator that the player controller script can access to change the animations accordingly, and also the data for whether or not you won a game or not and got your medal on a specific character. Now the jetpackless Chatini I made was just okay at best, so I decided to go through with making the rest of the sprite sheet and flesh out the art more. I probably will make a third mascot at some point, but after that I probably won't make any more mascots until closer to the end of the game's development, because right now I just need them to test certain systems I'm making. Now you can actually see me make one of these since I didn't show me drawing the Atoma one in the beginning of the video. I didn't expect to finish it when I sat down and decided to do a little work for the game off camera. Oopsies. But here you can see me copying and pasting certain frames or parts of frames for Chatini in order to speed up my work. I actually think I'd go crazy if I had to start from scratch on each one, so thank goodness for technology. Also, I had to cut up the video to make the time lapse shorter because I'm trying to not make this video an hour long, and I've cut over 4 hours of footage to squish all of my work into a reasonably length video, so I apologize if people want to see the full process. If I start streaming, you'll be able to check out my work in real time, and it would be on YouTube and not Twitch or anywhere else, unless I specifically make an announcement somewhere. But I do enjoy working on stuff like these devlogs because even if little to no one watches these videos, I will have a catalog of all the stages of progress I'm making, and it's fun to go back and watch where the game was and what my process was to get it to where it is at that current point in time. Does anyone else watch their videos once they post them? I think it's fun to look back at the work I've done, and I don't remember every single edit I make, so sometimes I surprise myself. But getting back to the game development stuff. Finally, after splitting up Chatini into cells for Unity to read, I set it up with my scriptable object after getting all the animations in place. I then decided to start work on the medal system for when you reach the top of the tower, as well as adding a door to take it back to the hub, which means we nearly have a finished gameplay loop. Here I'm setting up the medal above your head, and I also decided to add a diamond medal along with the golden medal. Each will serve its own purpose, and as the game gets developed, you'll see what I'm using them for. Then I made a quick script attached to CC to give you the medal once you reach your sprite. All we gotta do now is add a pause menu that lets us go back to the main menu and or quit the game, and it'd have a build that I could play. But unfortunately, I've already gone too long without making a video for the channel, so that'll be for the next devlog. Alright, that's it. Get out of here!